we gather in search of the truth, dark, and mystery. It's the Drunk Turkey Show.
Big development today in the investigation into the murders of 4 University of Idaho students. According to state and local officials and court documents, 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger has been arrested. He was arrested and arraigned this morning in Pennsylvania.
We have new details on what Bryan Kohberger was doing right before his arrest. Police says a tactical team burst in to arrest the Idaho murder suspect. He was in pajamas and latest gloves, stuffing trash into Ziploc bags.
Hey, greetings from the year 3000. It still sucks. This is Philip J. Fry, and you're listening to the Drunken Turkey Show. Your one stop for this sort of thing. Hit that button, like and subscribe. You know what to do, just like every other podcast.
You guys know what to do, just like every other podcast. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the DT Show. I'm Daniel, and today we're going back into the Jack and Lily Sullivan case. We have got some interesting news that has developed overnight that we're going to talk about. Something that I'm not necessarily, I'm still kind of, setting my mind around it, but we'll talk about it. And we're also going to have Dr. Vona, Jaime Vona, on the channel. She's going to talk to us about some of her some of the things that she's seen and found, or some things that maybe she noticed during my interview with Daniel, and about this case in general. So we're going to talk to her. We're going to bring her on here in a second. Before we do, I want to say thank you to everybody. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, share the content, guys. If you guys are following on certain Facebook groups or things of that nature, truly appreciate it if you shared it. Here we try to get some excellent guests and professional guests to come on the channel, and also people that are in the know or in the circle. For instance, I interviewed Daniel Martell. I've spoken with members of Malea's family, and here recently, even more folks. And so, kind of getting myself situated in the case, and getting a complete feel of the entire thing. And so without further ado, let's bring on Dr. Jaime Vona. Dr. Vona, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
Doing great. It's Friday, so I'm looking forward to the weekend. A lot of football this weekend. I know it didn't, yesterday was a little not so great for your Eagles. How are you doing? It
wasn't good for any of our teams, not for the Phillies, not for the Flyers or the Eagles. It was just a bad day to be in Philadelphia. But I still love my teams. It's okay. We'll figure it
out. I hear you. It's been a long week for me. I've been working kind of consistently over the last couple of weeks, pretty long hours, kind of back into my norm at work. Mm-hmm. So I haven't had a beer in a while. I'm going to have one tonight, guys.
Yes.
I don't know if anybody's partaking in anything. Put it in the live chat. If you're getting your, if you're relaxing in some sort of way, let us know. So Jack and Lily Sullivan, they went missing back in May of this year, 2025. And there's been a lot of speculation going on whether or not the family had something to do with it, whether or not the kids wandered off, whether or not something more nefarious may have occurred. Kind of from your perspective, just kind of hearing about the details of the case or seeing them firsthand, what was your first impression of it?
Well, first, let me start, because since I haven't done this case yet, just in case people are new to who I am, should I just explain?
Yes. Okay. I apologize.
No, you're good. I don't want people to be in the chat like, who is this woman? So right. I've been teaching at the college and university level for over 20 years. I have a bachelor's and a master's in counseling, psychology, and human behavior, and then a doctorate in education, in higher education, but I did all of my dissertation in identity development, which is psychology. And then I have a specialization in marriage and family therapy. So everything in my life is psychology. I also teach at a high school. So I too am so crazy busy this semester. I don't know what's happening, but it's okay. It's not a bad thing. I'd rather be too busy than not busy at all. But now getting to your case, or not your case, but you know what I mean, the case that you, Daniel. thank God you live so far away, because I wanted to punch you at some point. I'm like, what is happening? Because now I'm like hooked into hooked into the patterns and stuff. And now I'm like, I can't get enough. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Daniel. But okay, so this is my thing. So one other time we discussed it a little bit, and it might have been like the end of like a Bryan Kohberger show or something. And I immediately said that I thought something was shady with the parents, right? That's where I was like 100%. So, and this is just my opinion, you guys. But then you and Barbara Hall said you didn't think so. I mean, you said that you still are open either way, but that you really were giving them the benefit of the doubt. And so did Barbara. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should give them the benefit of the doubt. But then I watched all this stuff today, and there are just too many red flags for me. So hopefully when we go through some of this stuff, I could point out these red flags to get your, like what you think, like your perspective on what these are. And then I'll tell you from a psychological point what I think.
Perfect. Yeah, those definitely do that. I agree. And I've said this multiple times. I've said that I understand why so many people are questioning Daniel, and why so many people have questioned him and some of the things that he said. But one of the things that I couldn't grasp is those things existing, which could be for other reasons, and the fact that the RCMP couldn't find a case against them, given the amount of cooperation that he's done. So, we have to preference this with, he has voluntarily gone into the police department to be interrogated multiple times for multiple hours. He voluntarily turned over his phone, his bank records, allowed them to go through his messages and his and his geolocations or GPS locations. And he's also taken a lie detector test, 3 of them, and passed. Now, the RCMP have come out and stated that at this time, they do not believe that there is any criminal offense or a crime have occurred. And when it comes to Malaya, Malaya being the mom, she has also gone through the ringer as well, through all of those things that I've stated above. Now, the difference between Malaya and Daniel is Malaya does have a lawyer, but her lawyer, from what I understand, is a custodial lawyer, a civil lawyer, not a criminal lawyer. And this has to do with the fact that Daniel and Malaya are going through custody of their biological child. And so she's also gone through turning over her phone, allowing the messages, the GPS locations, taking a lie detector test, and passing them as well. So that's the premise, that those are the facts of the case, so to speak. Those are the things that we know. And when it came to the RCMP documents, under Malaya, RCMP stated that, it didn't say this for Daniel, which was kind of weird, but it did say it for Malaya, that they were trying to rule her out as a suspect. That was the exact terminology that they used. And then they talked about the reasoning behind the entire investigation at that point, that they don't believe that there's any criminal offense. Now, I'm reminded by Moscow PD and how they let everybody know that Jack Showalter or Jack DeCore or, any of these other people that were being blamed at the time, when they cleared them, all Moscow said was, at this time, we don't believe they're involved. So the terminology to me is the RCMP. Like, if I was looking at Moscow and I'm looking at RCMP, I would side with saying that RCMP is more confident that the people they're investigating had nothing to do with the crime than what Moscow was, just based on their terminology. Do you agree or disagree?
Absolutely. I mean, if the cops are, putting something forward, obviously I'm going to go with that. But that doesn't mean that they're still not like red flags. And again, even if this is like guilty in the sense of feeling guilty for not getting the fence done or whatever the case may be, like, I don't know what I'm picking up on with him, but I'm picking up on something. And the lack of her being around, like the fact that she leaves the next day, that just doesn't make sense to me. If your kid's missing, are you leaving?
I agree. And I think that there's a lot of people that look at that situation, and I as well look at that situation and say, hey, there's something nefarious there. And that's kind of what Daniel points out to, is the fact that she had left so quickly, and some changes, like plans were changed immediately. She left real quick. And one of the things, so I was talking to Janie before the show. Janie typically leaves on Friday mornings with her brother, but she didn't go that day. And so Malaya and Daniel woke up. When she woke up is because Daniel was outside yelling for the kids. She woke up. She was getting out of bed. Daniel had ran off into the woods looking for him. Malaya was just standing outside, not yelling, not calling for the kids, not anything. And then when Janie walked outside, according to Janie, Malaya said, "Oh, I didn't know you were here." And she's like, "What's going on? The kids are missing. How long have they been gone?" And she said, 20 minutes. So Janie and Daniel are like suspicious about her behavior. Right. And I get it. I 100% get it. I would be too. But, she still also passed all that stuff that we talked about. And so that's kind of where I'm at on that. They also found out something to the effect that, and now this is coming from Janie and Daniel, and I also heard this from Derwin, who is a family member of Malaya's, that at some point, so I think Malaya was trying to leave the relationship. And so she started to tell people, certain things about her relationship with Daniel. And her mom, Malaya's mom, contacted Derwin and said that she wanted Derwin to get Malaya out of the house. And he was like, "Well, I'm not going to go break up a relationship, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to figure out what's going on." And so he supposedly speaks with Malaya, and Malaya says, "No, don't worry about it. I have another plan." And apparently this was like 2 weeks prior to the kids going missing. And so Janie and Daniel are looking at Malaya's behavior, and they're looking at her leaving, and they're looking at her actions and behavior leading up to that, because they found out about that from Darren. He went out and told them. And so in their mind, Malaya had the kids taken. And the reason that they put it behind, or the reason that they have it, is something to do with the effect that they believe that this was going to help her get custody of Meadow now, which is their biological child.
I don't understand that.
I don't either. This is why I don't agree with it. You know what I'm saying? I really don't.
Because didn't it lead to where neither one of them have custody right now? So I feel
currently right now, and I think that what Janie is saying is that may not have been what was initially that she thought was going to happen. I don't think she thought that they were going to take Meadow away. They were just going to look at Daniel and say he's abusive or something, and take Meadow away, and then I really don't understand the middle part here, because to me, I don't buy it. I'll be honest with you, I don't buy it. I don't think that Malaya did this like that, but this is what they think. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And
I don't know, there's so many things here. I don't know. There's just so much here.
So when Daniel is like saying that he doesn't believe they're out in the woods, right? Mm-hmm. And he's like, "I'm 100% sure they're not out the woods." That's because he has, in my opinion, confirmation bias that she has them somewhere.
Yes, but I also thought that it was weird when, like, she does give that interview right away, right? And it was like short. I don't even know who does the interview, but she's talking to the cameras and asking her questions. And it's like she goes right to, I think they were abducted, which I thought was a little bit weird, being where they're located. I would think that you would be afraid that they ran off, or that they were, that there was a bear that could have gotten to them or something. So the fact that she said, isn't there only like 100 people in the entire area? So like the fact that she, like, I could see if you're in Philadelphia and you say, "Oh my gosh, I think they were abducted," that would make sense. It's highly, it's densely populated, but there's only 100 people. So I just thought that was weird that she went right to, they were abducted.
Well, I think that interview may have been the second day. And
yes, the day after, right? Okay.
And so here's why I think she had that opinion. The kids go missing. In her mind, and she says that it's only been 20 minutes. There was a ground and search crew out in the area looking for a guy that got in something with a kayak, and they were literally in the area. There was helicopters in the area already, and so they came in within minutes. They had drones, and they had all these things, and they had X amount of searchers who are already in the area. Now they're searching the ground, and they didn't find anything outside of the blanket and the footprints. Now, she, according to the documents, she contacts that night, between the first night and the second day, around 3 a.m., she contacts the RCMP, and she tells them that she thinks that maybe perhaps the biological father may have come and picked up the kids. And so what I'm thinking is happening is, and if you listen to what she's saying, you know, they must have gone out the back door. They must have done this. It's real robotical. And it's very, it reminds me of somebody who's been sitting down with law enforcement and they were going back and forth like, all right, what happened? Kind of like when I questioned somebody, like when I was questioning Daniel, and I was like, all right, you pulled in, you know, what, he didn't know about if his vehicle was searched or not, and or Malaya's vehicle was searched or not. So he said that it wasn't. And I go, well, hold on. You guys broke up, right? When did you guys break up? The next day. When was the last time you saw her? The next day. What happened to that vehicle? It got towed. So you have no idea if it was searched or not, right? And he's like, no. And so it sounded like she had that kind of dialogue back and forth, like, all right, what happened? Who woke up? You know, could they have gone out the front door? No, because there was an item blocking the front door or preventing them from going out. And so when she was going through it, it sounded very much like that. And so to me, I'm thinking that she's probably thinking the kids just got out and the ground search crew could not find them. And they were only gone for 20 minutes. Somebody must have picked them up.
So can I just say that the story that you just said is the exact story that he also gives. So I found it a little bit strange that their stories, and even if you like listen to his interviews like later, I feel like he says the exact same thing every time, which I also thought was a little bit odd. But I feel like it's the exact same thing that you just said right there. So is it, I guess my question is it normal for someone to like spit out the exact, like, I feel like they did what I do at work. I've been teaching the same thing for over 20 years. So like my students will laugh because I wind up saying the words that are on the PowerPoint without even looking at it because I've seen it so many times. So it's more like robotic in a way, not robotic. I'm not robotic as a teacher, but you know what I mean? It's automatic. Yeah. Do you think that that's strange that they say the exact same thing every single time?
Not necessarily. And the reason behind it is because Daniel told me that he was interrogated for 4 hours. And so he's probably answering the same thing for 4 hours. And it sounded like she was going through the same thing. And I think that they were breaking it down. And I think that in her mind, she was coming up with some reason as to why the kids were missing. Now, could it have been something nefarious? Maybe. I struggle with her being able to pass a lie detector test and, you know, her having some sort of involvement, you know.
We know who did the lie detectors. Like, were they reputable?
RCMP.
Okay.
They brought in two different investigators to do on two different machines, and they tested, I believe, Malaya and Daniel at the same time in different locations. And both of them passed. And from what Daniel told me is he took 3 of them back to back to back.
Would they tell him that he passed?
They said that they did afterwards.
If they said that they did, fine. But he was like, yeah, they told me that you, like, good for you, you passed.
He said that they told him that they passed, and then the RCMP documents say that he was truthful.
Okay. I don't know. This case is
just... That's why I'm saying, because to me, if given the amount of cooperation, including, you know, doing the lie detector test and stuff, and knowing who we're talking to, right? He's not Bryan Kohberger. He's not he doesn't have a background in forensic, you know, in cloud forensics, cloud-based forensics. He lives out in the country. You know, he knows how to play with plasma lighters and things of that nature, but I'm not necessarily sure he's the kind of guy that's going to be able to, you know, hide things like online or whatever, his communication for drug purchases and stuff like that. I feel like law enforcement would have found those things when they went through his phone, and maybe perhaps they did. And, you know, I don't understand why they wouldn't have arrested him if they found something like that, you know, because if they would have found out that he was purchasing or selling drugs or using drugs, that opens up some possibilities there, like a kid accidentally getting involved in it. You know what I mean? And so, you know, if he's purchasing it, there's got to be a meetup location. And is that at his house? Is somebody going to his home to drop off or pick up or whatever the case may be?
So this is the thing, Daniel. If somebody said this in the comments, and they're absolutely right. We don't know if he I have never, like, I've never been able to sit down with him. I don't know if he's a sociopath, if he has antisocial personality, but let's say like anybody that does wouldn't have a hard time passing a polygraph. So, and the other thing is, how do we know what questions they asked? He did say that the very first question they asked is, did you kill them? And he said no. So what if that's true? But what if, like you said, they got into drugs or something that
it was related to the death of the kids. Like, do you know?
Well, I think he said, like, the question was, did you,
like, with murder and the death of the kids?
Well, they said the disappearance of. This is the thing.
No, the paperwork said the disappearance.
Oh, it does.
The paperwork says the disappearance and the death of the kids from Malaya. So I believe that they asked different questions.
Yeah,
for him, it's redacted.
That's what I'm talking about. So I feel like there's something there. I don't know. I feel like if you ask a question and you're somebody that's able to compartmentalize, then you could pass without really lying. So, like, again, for example, if they did say to him, and again, I'm making this up, you guys, because it's redacted, but let's say they said something along the lines of, did you have anything to do with the disappearance of? He could be thinking in his head, well, they're not disappeared. So no, I had nothing to do with it.
Right. But it was also, but he wants, he's even asking to take another lie detector test. He's like, I'll take another one, ask about the disappearance, because
do we know if they took a drug test before he took it? Like, I just have so many questions.
I don't know if he did, I know that he took drug tests, because I know he was taking drug tests because he's, they took Meadow away because of their biological kid. CPS took Meadow away. And they're forcing him to take drug tests every week. So he's been drug tested every week, I think twice a week or something like that, and has passed every one of them. Now, could he have done something to pass it, to manipulate it? Possibly. I don't know, but I would assume.
Yeah, you could have, like, the mom pee in a vial and he could strap it to his leg and go take the test.
Right. No,
I do it here all the time. I don't know. There's something that's not adding up for me with him, and I don't know what it is.
And here's the thing, and I'm glad we're bringing this up, because he apparently had a girlfriend, and some drama has started up about the girlfriend overnight. Now, I've known about this girlfriend for quite a while. In fact, she had reached out to me some time ago, and she would tell me a couple of things, and then she kind of disappeared because she thought that Daniel at that time was maybe perhaps not capable of doing anything to the kids. Not saying that she thinks differently now. She actually hasn't said that. But, she would tell me things like here recently, she reached out and basically was kind of talking about Daniel being a controlling and manipulative person. Now, Daniel freaked out, because she threatened him with going to all these different channels and talking to all these different people that don't agree with him and stuff like that. He even reached out to one of those channels to try to do, I guess, damage control. He tried to say, hey, there's fake profiles out there. They might be saying these nasty things about me. All right. Obviously lying. And so, to me, he's not a very good liar. And the fact that he was panicking and freaking out and doing all these other things, that doesn't scream somebody that's going to pass a lie detector test. Now, somebody like Kohberger, who's composed, doesn't freak out, doesn't, shake in his boots when things like this happen, I might say, all right, that guy might pass a lie detector test. But somebody having that response of even going to all these other people trying to say, hey, don't worry, it's not what it looks like, and all this other stuff, and just kind of obviously freaking out. Do those two lines connect, that a guy that acts that way is also capable of passing 3 lie detector tests?
Yeah, because and again, maybe not, but you possibly could. We don't know. You said that he's taking drug tests, but somebody, like, people in chat are saying that he said that they didn't give him a drug test. So how do we really know? I mean, is it in the paperwork that they gave him a drug test and that he came up with nothing in the system?
He has to be drug test for his custody with Meadow. It's part of his custody thing.
But didn't they have Meadow when the kids went missing?
They did, and CPS took him away. Took her away.
But that's my thing. So before they lost Meadow, he could have been using.
He could have.
So, like, he might not be using now.
Right, but he took the drug test. I mean, he took the lie detector test after while he was being drug tested and all that other stuff.
Right, but I'm saying when he had custody in Meadow, when all of this happened, like when this first happened, first of all, wasn't there drugs in the house that they found?
That I don't believe so.
No. Okay, well then that's good to know. That's good to know.
There was some speculation about that, and no, there was a lighter that was found broken to pieces, and some people took a picture of that. I got a picture of it. I'll show you what it is. In fact, I have it like right here. That's pretty crazy. Okay, present, share screen. So this is the this was found on a water heater inside of the restroom after Daniel had left, and some folks were looking at this. There was a channel, not Crime and Shame, it was a different channel that was looking at this and claiming this was some sort of baggie or something. But as you can see, it's the same color as this. It's a metallic. It's actually a battery. This is.
I assume that it had to do something with that.
You can see these burnt tips here.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of these. Now the battery is in here, and this picture isn't pixelated, and the chip isn't inside the case. But as you can see, it's relatively the same size. The burn marks on the tips, battery, and he has a bunch of stuff like this. That's what he does. And so
Is that like
a lot of people, I guess a lot of people ran with that as that was some sort of evidence of drugs. But that wasn't that wasn't any drugs. Apparently, and from what I found out is that so that day there was a like a disturbance almost, and a lot of allegations going back and forth between the families. And one of the allegations was that Daniel was taking drugs. Law enforcement actually went into the trailer and went into the bathroom to search, and they didn't find anything.
Yeah, but couldn't you get rid of it before they come?
You could. You definitely could.
I don't know if it's just that I live in Philadelphia and like I'm so used to, this happening and it's not, there being an excuse for it. I'm not convinced yet, but I also, just so people know, I also don't know that I think that he did anything. I just don't know that but I don't know what it's about. Again, it might not even be guilt in the sense that he did something. It could be guilt and I'm picking up on that he didn't do enough. I don't know. But I don't know, Daniel. Something ain't right.
The girlfriend comes out.
Yeah,
right?
Tell us about this. Go ahead.
The girlfriend comes out and she says some things now. So the girl, and she's been very honest with me, very, very honest. She actually sent me a couple of pictures of some bruises that she has. And at first I jumped almost to a conclusion. I was like, Daniel did that to you? And I was like, what the heck's going on? And she's like, no, it wasn't abuse. It wasn't this, it wasn't that. And it was weird because Daniel had messaged me also saying, man, the girlfriend's gone crazy. She's claiming I abuse her. And then she sends me the picture of that. So, I'm connecting dots here thinking, oh my God. All right. And so she tells me, no, that's not what happened. Apparently it sounds like, based on what she was telling me, that it was a product of some rough stuff in the bedroom. And so she was open about that. And but what happened was, apparently she and I don't want to say this is going to sound bad, but she manipulated Daniel by creating she had a picture of herself and she made it look like she had a black eye using Photoshop. And she sent me how she did it. She sent me the video and the whole 9 yards. And she showed it to Daniel. And I guess she told Daniel that, she was being assaulted by her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend or something to that nature. And this was in efforts to get Daniel to open up to her. And it sounds like the intention of the relationship on her part was to try to figure out whether or not Daniel was being honest or not. Right now, what her intention was or whatnot, Daniel, his behavior has been kind of childlike at the very least. And we'll go into it. But he apparently, I guess, according to her, she found out that Daniel was talking to other women. And so she broke up with Daniel. And Daniel got mad and supposedly threatened her with calling CPS because she has a child and that she had bruises. And I don't understand where those two correlate. Like, oh, I'm going to threaten you by calling CPS on you. You know what I mean? And because you got abused. But she comes back and
I think
says,
he's trying to say, like, in other words, if she's getting abused, then could
right.
that
No,
be
I get what
putting the
he's
kid
saying.
in harm? I think that's all that's probably what
Right.
he's trying to do there.
But she's no longer with that guy anymore. So why does it make a difference now?
Is he a jealous person?
It seems that way. And so, and I'm a very honest person, guys. If, I don't hide from the truth. If something comes out and it looks bad, I'm going to come out and tell you guys, this is what it is. I'm not going to hide from it. I'm not jumping to a conclusion either. Daniel still passed everything. Right. So, and this sounds like a lot of drama, but Daniel, he got this girl's, I don't want to say her name or anything like that, but she apparently, showed him these pictures and used that so that he could open up. And her intention was to figure out whether or not Daniel was capable of doing something crazy. And so when they broke up, Daniel threatened her with CPS, and she's like, bet, and started sending out all the screenshots of everything that they talked about, everything that they did. A woman scorn will really, you don't want to screw with that. You know what I'm saying? But
you're funny.
One of the things that she sent out, and I wanted to get your opinion on, is now there was some bruises. She claims it had to do with something possibly in the bedroom. And she also sent out a screenshot where Daniel says something to the effect, and I'm not going to show it. It's very graphic, but it's like, I'm going to wake up and do something forcibly to you, and some more explicitives. Her response is, I want you to use me, or something to that nature. So it sounds more like a kink, but does it say anything to you about, given the bruises, the roughness, the accusations of that some people are looking at, or could it be nothing?
So, yeah, but this is the thing. So having a specialization in marriage and family therapy, I would say this. We saw even with Bryan Kohberger, right? He had like very abnormal fantasies. This is an abnormal fantasy, you guys. We're not talking about, like, I saw it. He talks about R, like he talks about going, and then goes even a step further and says that he's going to ejaculate in her. So just different things, which I found were like on the verge of, not the verge of, that were abnormal. They were absolutely abnormal. So it's one thing to say, I'm going to come in and like while you're sleeping and wake you up and whatever, or even if you want to like talk dirty, that is totally fine too. There's nothing abnormal about that. But having an R fantasy is abnormal.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean that he did anything to the kids.
No. Not
this
at all.
This is out there, and I'm not going to hide from it. We've had Daniel on the show. We're not going to hide from it. He may not have wanted me to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm no prude. So I'm not even saying that. I think it's just the fact that, like, I mean, with BK, we were like very quick to be like, oh, he was looking at, people that are passed out and this, that, and the other, and forcible. Isn't this the same thing? Right? It's forcible.
But what if, just playing devil's advocate, what if it was something, because she took the screenshot, what if it's something that she liked and he was playing along with?
Okay, that is 100% a possibility. But even that, if anybody's listening and you're dating someone and they like it, there's nothing wrong with playing like cosplay or whatever. There's nothing wrong with any of that. The problem is the abnormal language. And this is the thing. The language is like language of either someone who's been traumatized themselves or someone who is perpetrating violence in some way. So, because that would be violence to have S with someone that doesn't want to. So I don't know. There was just something about that I felt was off. But again, it doesn't mean that he did anything to the kids, but it does tell me that there's some abnormal fantasies that he's having. I don't know. So
the more concerning thing, so I know that's going to get out there and people are going to see that text message. So that's why we addressed it. The more concerning things are her allegations against him that he was controlling. She claims that he didn't want her to have male friends, and that she had to delete coworkers off of her Facebook and things like that. could that be the red flags that you're seeing? That is it? Maybe perhaps he's a controlling, because there are two different things. He can be a controlling a-hole of a boyfriend, right? And not a murderer. You get what I'm saying?
1,000%. I also, though, when it comes to controlling, I definitely think that he's controlling, in my opinion. We see that just that every time somebody comes out with something, he tries to get ahead of it by going out and like doing an interview first. Do you know what I mean? Like, so that's him trying to like, put his narrative out there before somebody else can. But sometimes it might not even be warranted. Like nobody might even be coming out to say anything, which tells me that he's paranoid in some sense about what might be said or how that might make him look.
Well, I will say that he has a right to be paranoid. That information, from what I understand, is like all the screenshots. I haven't seen all of them. I've just been told there's like screenshots of him calling her call after call after call after call after call after call and things like that. And she sent that over to certain people and stuff. So, and I know that she's also talked to RCMP in the past, and RCMP haven't changed their stance on things. So we got to take that into consideration as well. Like I said, I want to be 100% factual. I want to be,
Absolutely.
And so some of these things that are being said, and like I said, this sounds like also like a lot of drama from a boyfriend and girlfriend that are breaking up. And, unfortunately, and if, I can give Daniel some advice, you probably need to like not get into a relationship anytime soon, bro.
Right. And so that says something too, right? So someone that like he's almost like he's in love with love, like he like needs to be in a relationship, because it seems like he goes from one to the other without having any time in between to like work on himself or reflect or whatever the case may be. So I don't know if all of the things are, again, when I say abnormal, I believe some of this stuff is abnormal, but it doesn't necessarily make him, a killer or anything. But it also makes me suspicious of him. Travis, can I just say something? So Travis says on here, and you guys, Travis is a lawyer. So, and he already said this like in one other way, but I'll read the latest one. He says, we don't allow them to repeat polygraphs based on new evidence because the certification agencies says that's not a valid reason. That's a ruse to get another interview. And he says one right before this too, that was about the polygraph that I was going to say something about, but that is interesting, right? Because he's saying like, you can't, it's probably not, you probably wouldn't take 3 polygraphs. I was thinking that too. Like the only reason you would take another polygraph is if something in the first one was inconsistent, right? Like, why would you take 3? If you pass a polygraph, why am I going to ask you for another one? And then if you pass that, why am I asking you for another one?
I have no idea.
Right. I'm just trying to think about this. Like,
I don't know. Maybe he was confused by it. Maybe they just, because they asked him the same questions over again, that he thought it was over and over again. I don't know. It's a good point.
But if it was 3 different polygraphs, like if you passed the first polygraph, why would they even want to?
Well, I mean, the way he kind of described it, and I don't know, maybe I got to ask him again, but it sounded like they never like disconnected him. They were like, all right, we're going to go through these 12 questions, and then we're going to go through these 12 questions again, and then we're going to go through these 12 questions again.
That's so highly manipulative, let me just tell you, because I was listening to the interviews and he legit makes it sound like he went in for 3 separate polygraphs. So I feel like that's just a manipulative thing to do, is to let someone believe that, because if you sat down all in one day and took 1 polygraph, then that would be 1 polygraph. They had a series of questions. So,
but he might be
why would they need it 3
ignorant to
different
it.
times?
Well, it may be also the fact that he may not know, and to him, asking him the same 12 questions 3 different times is like taking it 3 times. Because I mean, I've not done a polygraph test on anybody. I've taken one to be in law enforcement, and I'm assuming it's different than when you're a suspect. But what it sounded like is, all right, we're going to ask you these 12 questions. Then we're going to ask you the same 12 questions again. And then we're going to ask you the same 12 questions again. And to him, that might mean that's 3 different ones. It may not. I don't know. I mean, the guy's, he's not, I don't know. I mean, he's, like I said, he's a country guy. He's not stupid, right? And I'm not trying to say that at all. but I don't know if he's the most like informed when it comes to, law enforcement procedures and things like that.
He could, just like someone said in the chat, he might not be a killer, but he might just be a bad person. And that could possibly be it too. But I wouldn't date him.
Well, and Janie brought up a good point. Like, and I tried to explain this to her, but she said, what kind of girl would go after a guy with all these things going on, with the accusations, the kids missing, this, that, and the third. And to me, like I said, I told her, I was like, based on what she told me, it sounds like that may have been what her intention was not, she wasn't looking for love. She was looking for answers.
Yeah, or she could be identifying in some like marginalized way with him in that moment.
Yeah.
Projection.
Good. I mean, and so it's a weird situation. It definitely is. And it makes things complicated to me. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get back to, I guess, the facts of the case, so to speak. So the kids go missing. Now, what we know that happened that morning was that Daniel apparently woke up when Lily came in. She popped her head in and out of the house, in and out of the room early that morning. And then Malaya also says that she heard the kids that morning. And Janie says that she heard the kids a little bit later outside. So if Daniel did something, that Thursday night, how would you explain the other two people hearing them that morning?
Well, for me, the mom, it wouldn't surprise me because, I mean, I don't know. The mom, she could just be saying that because she doesn't want her son to be implicated. So that doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Because she also says that she goes right back to bed because she thought nothing of it. And then the mom, I mean, I don't know. But this is the thing. Wasn't it weird, though, that the night before, like when you go in and check on your kid, do you put the light on? Didn't you think that was weird that he said he went in and puts the light on? He puts the light on and sees both of them asleep. I was like, why would you put a light on when your kids are sleeping?
I thought I took it from like the hallway. But I don't know. Good.
So, but I feel like, why did he feel the need to tell us that?
Well, I think he was saying that he saw them.
Daniel, I want you to pay attention when he talks. He beats around the bush a lot, or he gives a lot about a story. And again, this doesn't mean that he necessarily did anything, but like so let me ask you a question. What was your daughter wearing? What's your daughter wearing right now?
She's wearing pajamas.
Okay, but do you see how you had to think about it? That's normal. When they ask him, he's like, well, they had on their shoes for the daughter.
Right, but he's also had to explain this multiple times.
Yeah, but this is right after, though. Like if you go back to the very beginning interviews, it's just, I don't know.
Right, but his first interview was, his first time that he talked with law enforcement was right then and there. And then the next day, I think his interview with folks, I think was the next day. And if I remember correctly, those interviews weren't as detailed and stuff. They were kind of heavily edited and very short, just kind of him saying, yeah, we're looking for him. We haven't seen him, blah, blah, blah. But, by the time he gets to his interviews, or by the time he's talking to me, he's already given this story 1,000 times. I mean, but it's true though. He's given the story. Like if you've been asked multiple times, hours upon hours of the same story, and you've given the same story over and over again, wouldn't it become kind of like muscle memory to repeat it easily?
No, not really, because, and I think he puts a lot of detail in there, right? He doesn't. So if somebody asks you like about what did you do today, you're normally going to say something like, I woke up, I went to work, I came home, I ate dinner, I got a shower, and now I'm doing YouTube. He'll say, this is what he'll say, ready? He'll say, I woke up, I brushed my teeth, and then I looked over and I saw Malika in bed or whatever, and then Malika in bed, and then I went to work, and then on my way to work, and he like beats around this whole bush just to get to the point. Right.
But that's kind of how Malaya was talking too. But it sounded to me like when I heard Malaya saying that.
Oh, I don't think she's like, I don't know that she's. Oh, wasn't saying like in comparison.
Right. No, I hear you. But she had the same cadence outside during her one or two interviews where she's like, I woke up, it had to be this time. I went outside. There was something in the door, so we know they didn't go out that way. They must have gone out the back door. We went out the back door. We started looking. I mean, it was very like boom, boom, boom. We didn't hear the door, so they must have gone out the back. Like it was very robotic, like I was saying, and it was very, very much presented in that manner. And to me, it was kind of like the sense that I got was that she had been going through this conversation with law enforcement quite a bit, over and over and over again. Like, where did you go? Why did you go this way? Why did you go that way? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And she's trying to answer, with everything that she knows and go one step at a time to get all the information out. Now, that's kind of the sense that I took from it, was like, it seemed like somebody who'd been asked multiple times about it. Now, I guess that can also come off as somebody who's rehearsed it multiple times, but I know that law enforcement at that point had been asking her multiple times about what happened.
It just seemed very robotic. That's a word that you used earlier with her. I just feel like both of them seem very robotic in some way. Mm-hmm. I don't know. And like, even like in the one interview, he like cries, but he like wipes his face and then like he looks up at the person to like make like almost like he's looking for like validation that you just bought that, and then goes back again. I don't know. There's just something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you that there's that possibility there that he may have
it could be too that he's overreacting because he's afraid that he's going to get blamed, so maybe he's overdoing it so that as a like because he's nervous that they're thinking. I don't know, but there's something ain't right.
I mean, like I said, I understand why a lot of people think that, and that goes for both Daniel and for Malaya and the way that she was behaving and the way she left. The one thing that I just can't get around is that most people that are guilty, when they do something and they cooperate this much, law enforcement's usually putting bracelets on their arms or on their wrists. And that's not happened yet. In fact, they've come out and said, let me show you what they said here recently. I don't know if you caught this.
Like, while you're pulling that up, could they also be like saying that because he just keeps going out there and talking? So it's almost like, I mean, what if they just don't have a case that could prove anything? But I mean, so did they say like he's not a suspect?
This is what they said about him. This is RCMP after the search at his property.
And I would like to say that, this is a very tough time for the public at large, the investigators, but especially the family. I can't imagine what they must be going through. We're doing the best we can to get answers for them and everybody else in this situation. So, and I would like to say that.
So the family is Malaya and Daniel. They're the father and the stepfather and the mother. I've never heard law enforcement talk this way about a suspect.
No, but then in this interview, well, I'm echoing.
Oh, it's because. There you go. You want me to
So, thank you. So, and you guys, I didn't say that the Janie person was a suspect. That wasn't what I was suggesting. I'm suggesting that you could always be like, oh yeah, to cover for your kid. That's what I meant when I said that. But I also watched this interview and they were talking about the cadaver dogs and they ask him a question and he says something along the lines of, no, that doesn't mean that they're not out there. They could have been hidden, like in a nook type place. And I was like, that was odd to say.
Run that by me again. He said that when?
So there's this interview that you just showed, there's like the longer version of it. So the interviewee asked him if something about like, does it mean just because you didn't find anything? And he says, that doesn't necessarily mean anything if they were like in nooks, like put in, like, the way he made it sound, it seemed like somebody would have had to put them in a nook for them not to get found. I don't know. It was just very confusing.
The way I took it and the way I've kind of felt about this entire thing is I think the kids may have wandered off. Now, I think that if you want to argue that Malaya and Daniel were negligent And I think you have an argument. I'm not going to argue too hard for you against that. You know what I mean? But I strongly suspect that they did wander off. And what I'm thinking is Daniel's place was two acres. And so they brought in two dogs and searched it 3 different times. So 6 searches occurred on his property with the dogs, if not more. Now, those same dogs also searched 40 kilometers, which is about 25 miles. So they had access to all of Daniel's area and stuff. What I'm assuming is that there's a good possibility that the kids could still be out there in that vast area. If they're going to be missing somewhere, it's probably going to be in that vast open area, not necessarily the 2 acres that they were able to walk 100% through. Does that make sense?
It does. And I see Janie's in here. Janie, I didn't say that you had anything to do with anything. And if anything, I was projecting my own thing as a mother, saying that and I'm not saying that I would ever cover for my kid in that situation, but that's all I would say. But I will say this. Somebody else talked about negligence. I teach family violence, this class, family violence. And even if it was just, like I said, guilty of feeling like I didn't get the fence done or I didn't. So, but I feel like there's something. And again, it could just be that he thinks that everybody's blaming him. So he's oversharing just to counter that. I don't know, but something just feels weird. I don't
He's
know
gone
why.
to the ringer.
Why keep coming out and talking though? I don't understand. I guess to keep the name out there. I don't know.
I don't know. I think partially to keep the name out there. I think partially maybe to get people to stop blaming him. You know, if he puts out more information, if he shows how honest he is, you know, isn't hiding anything. Like the guy isn't lawyered up. He's taken like I would be more suspicious of the guy that lawyered up, that denied taking or wouldn't take a polygraph test.
Didn't the mom lawyer up?
No. Well, the mom has a lawyer for the custody thing.
Gotcha.
She has a family lawyer.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but not for.
I knew I heard
to my
something
knowledge. To my knowledge, I could be wrong. I do leave a room for margin of error here. I'm not perfect. I'm not a robot, and so, with that being said, she could have by now, but I don't know. Now, here's the interesting thing, and I want to get your opinion on this. So, a lot of people say there's no proof or evidence that the kids wandered off. I disagree. There was their blanket that was found out here along the side of the road, and footprints that were found alongside of the pipeline. Now, the footprints were described to have been between. This is the pipeline. This cleared out area between this road right here and this road. They were described to Janie that the footprints were somewhere in the middle between these 2 roads. So they weren't along the side of the roadway or anything. It was way in the middle.
How far is that?
Pretty far. About from here to where I believe they came out of. About 6 football fields.
Wow.
About half a kilometer. So from the house, from here where Daniel's at, from their home to where the blanket was found is 1.6 kilometers. It takes 16 minutes to walk there. Now, at 8:48 is when Janie takes a phone call from her brother Ron. Shortly after that is when she hears the kids outside, and the kids, Malia calls 911 at 10 a.m. So in my opinion, you got somewhere between 40 minutes to an hour time frame of when they could have wandered off. Plenty of time for them to get over there where the blanket was found. Now, the fenced area, I recently found out, wasn't completed when the kids got out. So they could have just walked out. There was no fence. There was nothing preventing them from walking out. Now, the footprints were found by a dog that was an untrained it wasn't a professional dog. It wasn't hired on by anybody, but it was one of the search crew's personal dogs that they had trained, a bloodhound. And that dog managed to search from the blanket to the pipeline where they found the footprints.
Okay, this is the thing.
Now-
So, wait,
Oh,
Daniel, real quick.
go ahead.
How long do you think it took these kids? I just can't get over the 16-minute thing.
It takes, so all of this, it looks far, but it's actually like
Yeah, maybe it's just.
2 kilometers.
I'm
I
like
think
looking at this
2.5.
picture. Like, how did these kids walk this?
2.5 kilometers, which is like maybe a mile. So it's not
Sorry,
that
I
far.
just couldn't get past that for a second.
There was a 2-year-old that walked 9 miles through the Arizona desert, and they found him alive. Yeah,
Wow.
9 miles, 2 years old. He walked 7 miles unattended, ended up on a ranch, and a ranch dog found the child and led the child 2 miles back to the ranch house.
Wow.
And alive. Yeah, 9 miles. So this is only like 2.5 miles in
Do
totality.
you think they would have stayed together?
It appears, because the footprints on the pipeline are 2 children's. Now, there's a lot of marsh, there's a lot of mud, and there was only children footprints. There wasn't an adult footprint with them or somebody else who would have planted them. Now, where the footprints are compared to where the blanket is, if you walk down this roadway, you'll end up coming out to this end here where there's an opening, which if you circle around and get into this opening, leads you right on to where the pipeline is, pretty dang close to the middle there. Not necessarily right smack in the middle, but pretty close. So to me, I think it's very much plausible that they could have made it out this far.
Maybe. I don't know that it took 16 minutes. It probably took them longer. That's probably like if an adult was walking it. But this is where I get confused now, right? So now Janie says Jack and Lily wouldn't walk through the woods, not when it's hard, not when you had to carry Jack. So then what would you say to that? Then
Well,
where
kids
could
will
they
do
be?
things.
But then what's
They
the
were
explanation
they
if
were
didn't
very
walk
young.
out?
I'll say this: the kids are very young, right? And they're impressionable for one, and two, they're very young. And when it comes to kids doing things, they're not going to do something until they do, right? I mean, eventually they were going to drive, for the first time. They would have never driven before. Eventually they would have, done a lot of things that they would have never done before. So just because they hadn't done anything beforehand or wandered off before at the age of 4 and 6 doesn't mean that they wouldn't have at any point. Now, from what I do understand from Janie is that Daniel's other kids were there recently. And like within the last 2 weeks before they went missing. And what she told me was that her other kids, Daniel's other kids, the older ones, went out into the wooded area and they played. Jack and Lily followed them. They had their backpacks with them. Lily's backpack went missing. I wouldn't be surprised if they saw the other older kids having a good time with the backpacks. They were a part of that and try to recreate that. They're impressionable young kids.
So what about Janie saying that Jack couldn't walk though?
He could walk. He got tired and he wanted to sit down and stuff like that, but he could walk. He wasn't immobile.
Yeah, I don't know. So I was just
right. And a 2-year-old, and a lot of people would have thought a 2-year-old couldn't walk 9 miles through the desert. But here we are, right? Now, if somebody planted these boot prints, how are they planting the boot prints in the middle of the pipeline? Why would they plant them in the middle of the pipeline? Why not plant boot prints where they're going to be found?
No, that's very true. I don't know. So do they definitely think that the boot prints belong to the kids?
So here's what happened. They took castings of it, and initially they weren't sure because there were some kids that were out there during the search.
That's what I was going to say. How do we know that they didn't belong to other kids?
I would assume that the other kids out there in the middle of the pipeline over here by themselves, that's kind of, I think that would be unlikely with the same shoe size that Lily had. Where's the parents? Where are the other searchers? And, thank God they didn't get lost too then, because it's not like they were off the side of the road. This is in the middle of nowhere. Right. And 2, I've actually gotten in contact with Haley. I'm going to ask her some questions about the backpack and because she's the one who had the kids with her or the kids were with her family that were out there. I'm going to ask, hey, did they ever go down the pipeline? And if they never went down the pipeline, what other kids are going to be out there?
I don't know.
You get what I'm saying? So to me, this is why I believe that they're out there. It has nothing to do with what Jamie or Daniel or Malaya have said or not said. It has more to do with RCMP and what they have said, and these two things that have happened. Now, I recently found out. Now I still got to go through it, but so Daniel had mentioned in the interview that he was told by RCMP that the blanket was planted, and that it wasn't on camera when the vehicle passed by. Now, my initial thought is because Daniel, he comes in and he'll tell me things like, you know, they like to shoot the breeze with me. They like to joke. They'll do this, they do that. And what he doesn't know is that that's a tactic. They're getting him to, you know, loosen up a little bit. And, you know, they're not just doing all these things with him just to do these things with him. They're trying to get him to open up. And I wouldn't be surprised if Daniel came in and he said, "Hey, was it planted?" And the cop go, "Yeah. What do you know about it being planted?" You get what I'm saying? And kind of turning it on them. Not necessarily that they believe it's planted, but using it as a tactic to see what he says.
Right. But if that's the case, then couldn't they also not be calling him a suspect to do the same thing? So like you can't have one on one end, not on the other.
Right. But I mean, I would still be asking him and throwing those things, but that's true. And I think that when is a good time. And this happened when they picked up the kids' clothing. So it was shortly after the lie detector test, but before they got the results of the phone and the GPS and stuff. So they may have very well been still suspect of Daniel at the time when they told him.
Wait, I do have a question. You brought up about the pink blanket over here. My question is, and maybe I'm wrong, so I have to ask.
Go ahead.
From what I understand, when I listened to the interview, I don't remember which one, but it was the stepdad saying that he immediately went to the trash can to see if it matched. Like, why was there a blanket in the trash can? Or like, why did he run to the trash can when they found a blanket? That just confused me.
Yeah, so it is confusing too. Apparently they had just thrown a blanket away, and the blanket was used for draft purposes. Like they put it on the underneath the door so that it would prevent the draft from coming in, and they threw it away because it was getting warmer, and so they were opening the door more. And I guess when they described it, it was a LOL pink blanket. He knew that the only LOL pink blanket that she had was in the trash, so went to go check.
I don't know about that. Why would a kid want to get rid of an LOL blanket?
Oh no, they got rid of it. They were using it. And Malaya also says, so here's the weird thing, because like from what I understand, Daniel says he threw it away, and Malaya says she threw it away also. So I wonder if this blanket was torn into pieces.
Maybe.
And, you know what I mean? Because the piece that they found out there
that would make
of the
sense.
road,
And yes, that would make sense.
Yeah, because the piece that was found alongside of the road was 1 foot by 3 feet of the blanket. It was a strip of it. It wasn't the entire thing. And so, and apparently it was pretty old. And Daniel said that it would have been easy to tear apart. It was a raggedy old blanket.
Okay, then that makes sense.
But to me, I think that
to get out there.
See, to me, I think that there's a possibility that that blanket was torn into multiple pieces, and the kids just found one. The house wasn't like, the property wasn't like, you know, wasn't going to win any awards for yard of the year or anything like that.
Yes, I hear you.
And so, you know, if there was a mess and they had some things thrown around out there, you know, and the kids go out there and play and they hide stuff. They put things out there. I wouldn't be surprised if they had it out there. Now, Daniel says there was a hole on the side of on the side of the trash bag where the blanket was in, and he thinks that maybe somebody pulled it out. That I don't know.
Oh yeah, that there was it looked like that the hole was big enough to fit a hand in.
Yeah, that's what he
the
said.
Stuff I mean though. Like I just feel like some of this stuff is just so specific.
It's kind of wild. It's kind of out there.
I need to see more. So let me be honest. I still need to see more of this case. I am not convinced either way. I'm just very confused. So I'm not convinced. I'm confused. And again, my confusion, I don't think it's anything that you could really clear up for me at this point. I think I just need to dive more into this. Like, this is my beginning into this case. So I think I just don't know as much as everybody on the live right now. So I am looking forward to now diving into this to try to see, if I see anything that other people aren't. I hope these kids get found, you know what I mean? And I hope they had nothing to do with it. I don't know. There's just certain things that I just
hope
have
so
questions.
too.
You know what I mean? I just have questions.
Right. And I hope so too. I really do. I just know, like, for instance, with Timothy Dees, he called 911. His body was found 5 months later, 185 yards away from where he called 911. And they had cadaver dogs search that area multiple times, searches, and they couldn't find him. And he was not in a populated, dense area. You hear what I'm saying? It was or in a forest area. He was found in a tree line. So Travis Decker, they just found that guy.
Yes, they finally found him.
Deceased. less than a mile away from where his kids were found.
Which is crazy because they looked everywhere, and I don't but you're right. He was at less than a mile away. That is 100% true.
Less than a mile away. And I don't even think he was in the brush or anything. I think he was like in a storm drainage or something.
It's crazy.
And so they brought cadaver dogs. They brought all these type of searches and stuff like that. And they were looking for this guy. This guy took the life of his three daughters. So it wasn't like they were looking for him because he was just missing. They wanted to find him. He was a danger. And it took them so much time and effort and all this technology and things of that nature. And the places that they found him and places they found Timothy Dees were nowhere near as wooded and as populated as this area. I also have an image of a bear, a fairly large bear, that was in the area on May 28th. The kids went missing on May 2nd.
That's what my initial reaction was. Like, unfortunately, and I hope to God this didn't happen, but my initial reaction was, oh my gosh, what if they accidentally went in the woods and, God forbid, a bear found them? Like, that would have been terrible.
Yeah, I know a lot of people will say, oh, bears are nice and they're black bears and this, that, and the third. Well, two things are possible, right? One, the bear, it's May 2nd in a northern part of the continent. They just got out of hibernation. So they're probably going to be a little different at that point than, at other points. Second, if one of them is if one of the bears is a mama bear and there's a cubs around, they act totally different than when they're by themselves. Especially if they feel threatened by any means. And thirdly, it doesn't necessarily have to be an attack. For instance, if they wandered off out there and they saw an animal and it scared them and spooked them and they got pushed into the woods somewhere, they could have gotten themselves in trouble in that way. So there's a lot of possibilities.
Is there a possibility, and I don't know this, you guys, I live in Philadelphia. We don't even have big bugs here, but let alone bears. So I really just don't know. But could the bear have been the one to get into the garbage and then carried it out there?
It's possible. Bears, in fact, I got a video of a bear going through the garbage from Nova Scotia, from down the street, a big one. Let me see if I got it. I mean, it was sent to me yesterday, actually.
That would make sense how that blanket got that far.
It would. I hope I have it. I do. Let's see.
I mean, I don't know why the bear wouldn't take that much other stuff from the bag, but maybe they did. And
so this is in Nova Scotia.
Oh, I would die.
This is not that far from where.
Oh my God.
And I mean, I have it on mute, so there's no echo. But he's like, "What are you doing here, bear?" And bear goes straight for the trash.
Oh, I would die.
Yeah, and this ain't that far.
And the guy's like going to get a picture. I would have ran inside.
I would have too. I'm not gonna. I don't care if everybody says that they're nice and this and that. Yeah. Well, you can risk it.
Oh my gosh! Look. Holy crap. And that bear knew exactly how to get that open too, which just says to me that the bear's probably done this before.
Exactly. They're accustomed to it. In fact, that's what the bear, from what I understand, he's yelling at, he's going, "Get out of there." But from what I understand is the bear that Janie had, that she took a video of, or a picture of, fairly large, heading towards the trash can.
I'm laughing because Salty Sleuth said that the bear would have tore the bag open, not ripped it open and stuck the hand in. That is true. But somebody said about the bear would want food, not blankets. I don't think that's the case. I think that if it was ripped up, like you were suggesting, like could it have gotten stuck in the mouth of the bear or something? And then,
Exactly.
it was just a little piece. It wasn't the whole blanket. So the bear wasn't looking for a blanket. They could have been looking for food and the blanket got stuck.
That's true.
Or
That's
he could
very
have ate
true.
the blanket and then throw it up later. I mean, who knows? It was a little piece of blanket.
Yeah.
That is so scary.
Yeah. And I mean, it didn't have to like, so if the bear
that
like
makes
just
me
kind of
think-
stuck its paw in there and just got one like nail caught on the bag, that's
Or
all
so-
it
or
took.
somebody
It
couldn't-
doesn't
yeah.
take the whole paw
True.
to go into the bag. You get what I'm saying? All it would take is just one part of, like, if it just kind of swooped in and pulled out.
Did that bear
something.
tear that bag apart in that video? Like, would they have teared the bag apart?
I don't know. I'm gonna see if I can find it. It doesn't go into it that far.
Because I remember Daniel also saying that it was like a 60-pound bag or something, or 60, I don't know. It was like something.
I think
It
that
was
was
really
I think the
tough.
bag was a 60-pound bag.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, I don't think there was 60 pounds worth of stuff.
Gotcha.
And Janie goes, the bear was not in the garbage bin. Maybe not that day, but I mean, there's so many days that it could have been. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, that blanket was also in the garbage there for over a week.
So I have a question for Janie. If Janie doesn't think that the kids are in the woods and doesn't think that there was a bear thing, like what is the theory? Just so that I know. I'm just curious because again, I'm new to this case.
So Janie thinks is that Malaya wanted to leave Daniel, but knew that if she just got up and left, that there might be some custody issue between her and Daniel for Meadow. And so she came up with this plan, and that it didn't go exactly as planned. Like, I don't think she anticipated that CPS was going to take Meadow away. You know, I think they were just going to, like, maybe perhaps look at Daniel, and she was going to say some things about him, which from what I heard, she has. Same thing as Daniel, which that's the thing, right? If you're an investigator, that's an investigator's dream. You want to separate your suspects, which they have. They broke up and they don't talk to each other. You want to turn them on each other, which they have, and utilize that information against each other to get to the truth. And they've had that in front of them, and yet they still can't do anything. That's what bothers me about them, you know, about this entire case, is that it's an investigator's dream everywhere you look, and yet they can't. You know, you want your suspect to give up their phone. You want your suspect to not lawyer up. You want your suspect to give up their bank statements and their locations. And you're going to want your suspect to take a polygraph test. So it is an investigator's dream if you have your suspect. It's just, this is the part that makes me go, like, makes me halt. Like, all right.
I don't know. Do you really think that, like, if you wanted custody of your youngest daughter, would you get rid of your oldest daughters? Like, how does that even make sense?
I get it. I get that. Supposedly, there's a rumor out there that there was some sort of phone call with somebody, one of Malaya's family members, and they could hear Malaya say in the background, "Lily, I'm going to get you something in a minute." That the reason why she's acting this way is because she knows that they're safe, that they're somewhere else on the reservation. Because this has to do also, she believes, because there's like a Native American aspect to it, and that the kids were already being looked at by CPS, and she wanted the kids to go to the natives and go onto the reservation so that she could protect them from CPS, and came up with this plan, and that way they can get status, they can be found, they can run away to the reservation, and they don't ever have to worry about CPS. And one of the reasons why she believes that is because a couple of things. One of the things is that she doesn't act like the kids are missing. There's, you know, and that also, while Daniel was out searching, she walked out. Malaya didn't know that Janie was home because Janie was supposed to go out to the grocery store or go out to the town with her brother, as she normally did on Fridays. And then she didn't realize that Janie wasn't there. And she's like, wouldn't you think that if you just missed your kids were just missing for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, wouldn't you be yelling out for their name?
Unless they like usually play. I mean, I don't know. Unless they, I don't
she's
know.
called
Unless she wasn't
911.
afraid. Oh, well then, yeah, then that's weird.
She had already called
Called
911.
911, then that means she thought it was,
Yeah.
bad enough. So yes, absolutely. I would have been screaming, running around, but everybody's different. I don't know.
I mean, everybody is different, but like that's why she's like, they are so adamant. They're like, she wasn't yelling for them because she knew they weren't there. And there was no need for her to yell for them because she thought Janie was gone and Daniel was in the woods. So nobody was looking at her. That's their train of thought. And I get it. I understand it. I just don't think, because like there are some other folks that come in and say that the persons that helped out Malaya was CPS from the reservation themselves. I don't buy that. I don't buy that the reservation CPS went out there and orchestrated this elaborate hoax with Malaya to get the kids out of there. These kids that weren't status yet. You know what I mean?
So wait, now that you say that, that's interesting, because wouldn't you also assume that if somebody realized that they were missing kids, like wouldn't they want to give them back?
Well, the conversation is because apparently there's this thing with the natives. They're fighting with RCMP, and here recently they put a ban on RCMP from going onto the reservation line. Like, there's like some legit stuff that's happening between them two, and some folks think that this is some sort of precedent of, I don't know. I don't buy it. It's hard for me to even explain it, but
I will say that it is so unprecedented, in my opinion, that she left the next day. Like if your kids are missing, I don't know how you just leave.
I agree.
Even if you're fighting with your, your partner, I feel like you like figure it out.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now,
so that was weird.
Let's break it down piece by piece. If she had nothing to do with this and she had a plan to leave Daniel, now let's look at her scenario. She's a mom of 3 kids, 2 different dads. And I'm wondering if she's concerned that if she leaves Daniel, there might be some sort of backlash from her family. You get what I'm saying? Like, because now she's left another person. This is another broken home. And so I wonder if she starts telling them things that may be true, may be stretched, may be fabricated. I don't know. I wasn't there. But she starts telling her family things about Daniel. So that way, in the event that she leaves him, she's not getting the backlash of leaving another family.
I don't know.
She's fairly young. And so
from what I know, wasn't she raised by her grandparents? And if so, then that would mean, would she really care what her mother type thing?
Well, I mean, maybe even her grandparents, even if her grandmother was like
that. Makes sense. All right.
Her grandmother could be like, hey, you need to make it work out. This is your second child. Maybe she just doesn't want to hear it. And so she starts, not necessarily lying. I mean, she could very well be telling the truth. Like, hey, Daniel's abusing me. Daniel's doing this. He's doing that. He's on drugs. Dropping the seed, and this might be a little bit manipulative, but it could be, but dropping the seed in her family. So that way, in the event that she does leave him, there's not that backlash from the family. There's more acceptance of her leaving, saying, all right, we want you to come. We want you to get out of here. Acceptance from the family for doing this. And, she started that. Now the kids go missing. Now put yourself in the family shoes. She's been saying all this stuff about Daniel. Are you going to let her stay there?
I hear you.
You get what I'm saying? If you're Malaya's mom, and Malaya is saying that Daniel's
I don't know the relationship
is abusive. Yeah, but from what I understand is because Derwin told me that Malaya's mom told Derwin to go pick her up because she was saying that Daniel was abusive and Daniel was this and Daniel was doing that. Like that was what was going on leading up to the kids missing. And so if she's planting that seed and she's saying these negative things, if you're Malaya's mom and you're hearing that your daughter's boyfriend is abusive and then the kids go missing, are you going to allow your daughter to stay there?
No, not if there's somebody abusing them. And
that's what she's, and the only thing you have is what she's telling you. So I think that is what happened there. I think that because she wasn't going to leave, that wasn't the plan. She was actually going to go and leave with one of Daniel's cousins down the street and be there. And then Malaya's mom got there and said, no, you're coming with me they had a conversation, and then when she, like everything changed at that moment. And this is from a lot of different people from that were there. From what I understand, is Malea's mom got there. They went privately, and when they got there privately, she came back, said, "Daniel, I got to go," and left.
I don't know. Would you just leave your wife?
I wouldn't.
I get what you're saying.
I wouldn't, but this is also somebody like 20 years old, 22 years old, young. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I thought they were a little bit older than that.
Well, I think she's like in her mid 20s or early 20s. I think he's like 32.
Gotcha.
You
I
know
have
what I mean?
so much more digging on this one, Daniel. I feel like I go one way and then you hear something and you go this way and then you go, I don't know. And I feel like my brain's like, brrr. There's just so much information and there's so many like different sides of the story. It's hard to tell. Someone said she's 27.
27. Well, still, I mean, that's a baby to me, but
that's because we're old now.
Yeah. So 27 and 34. There you go. And so like I was saying, to me, I think that like if you put yourselves, like if we break it down to its core one step at a time and then put ourselves in the position or the shoes of the persons that were there and what they may have been told or heard, it starts to make at least a little bit more sense. I understand why her family forced her out of there. They were suspicious of Daniel. They were accusing him of being on drugs in the driveway. They were accusing him of being abusive and a bunch of other stuff as she was leaving. So it's not like, they didn't have in their mind, I'm not saying that this is true, but in their mind, a reason to get her out.
I guess I get that. I guess I have to look more into that. I mean, I get that. I didn't know about all of that about in the driveway and them saying all that stuff. Like I said, I just recently got into this.
Oh, for
So
sure.
I think I do have a lot more to like look into. I'm just saying what I see so far, just, I don't know, there's a lot of like inconsistencies, but like we said, it could just be that he's over explaining himself because people are going after him. I don't know.
He could also be a very controlling, I don't make excuses for him. The guy, to me, Daniel, comes off as very controlling and jealous. I'm not going to make an excuse.
Oh, 1,000%. I get that too. Someone said that you have to send me the docs. I do need the docs so that I could read everything.
All right. I'll send them to you. And it just kind of lays out the investigation that they went into Daniel and how they laid it all out.
Maybe it'll help my thought process with,
Yeah. Me personally, like I said, there's just so much here that screams out that if they did something, this would be easy to prove. Because of all of the cooperation that they've done. That's what, like I get all of the red flags that everybody says, Malea's actions, Daniel being, overly, expressing himself and now this new girlfriend stuff and how that drama has turned out. I get it. I see the red flags too, but I just don't understand how RCMP, they must know something more,
Oh, for sure.
So, what do you got going on? Do you have any words or anything else? That's pretty much.
No, I'm like speechless for once, you guys. My head is like literally like feels like it's bobbling around inside. Like as soon as we hang up, I'm already going to start looking at stuff. But I definitely want to read all the documents and stuff. The next thing I'm doing, I don't know. I'll probably go live Sunday. So people should look out for that. How about you?
Yeah, I'll probably go live tomorrow. I got to do the Timothy D's case sometimes very soon.
Yes, we should definitely do that. I do too. Barb, you're here. Mwah.
And then we also got to do there's Timothy D's. I haven't seen anything on Celeste and David in a while.
No, I feel like it's kind of like going quiet a little bit. I think he lawyered up with like a really good lawyer. And I think ever since then, the narrative's been changing a little bit, but I'm still into that whole thing. Like I'm still looking up every day to see if there's new information, but I don't know, that whole
here's the weird
weird
thing about that, right? So David's lawyer is Blair Burke, I think is her name.
Yes.
And she has a connection apparently, allegedly, with TMZ, with Howard Levine. They are vacation buddies. And all of a sudden, like everything that's come out about Celeste here recently has been things that were negative towards her. They show her arguing.
100%.
It's weird, huh?
It's so weird. It's so, I think it's actually not even that it's just weird. I think it's like he did like a bad job of like even making like a transition. I feel like he came out hard at first, and then we find out that he's friends, and David hires this person, and then all of a sudden we're seeing that video of her at the neighbors. We're seeing they're saying about her fake IDs. So I feel like they're trying to, like you said, they're muddying the waters, and
They
I don't
bring in
know,
an
but I see
ex-boyfriend
through all that. Yes,
bring it
ex-boyfriend, like
to talk
she
bad
was
about her
14.
family.
But she was 14. Like, even if you have an ex-boyfriend, how long could they have been dating that he knows that much? I don't know. But I feel like they're going out of their way to make her look bad. And I don't
like
know that to be true. But I mean, maybe it's just the information out there. So I don't know that to be factual, but that's how it looks to me, at least. I got that same idea.
Hey, my email, guys, is drunkturkeyshow@gmail.com. Pretty simple. Yeah, Tinkerbell, drunkturkeyshow@gmail.com. Daniel, do you have the 911 call? If you do, can we play it? What 911 call?
Yeah, what 911 call?
The 911 call from Malaya? I do not. If you guys can send it to me, we can definitely. I've never heard it before, so I would love to hear it. Salty Suspects comes in with a newest membership. Thank you so much. Kim, not your cup of tea, also the newest membership. DT, these kids rode a school bus or get driven to school. They rode a school bus. One last thing that I wanted to explain real quick, and I wanted to get your opinion on. So when I'm deducing things now, I have to discredit the footprints, which, and I never really finished that up. They took a cast of it, and one of the footprints said 29, which was like a size 11 or something like that. And initially, Malaya said that Lily wore 13. Well, they went through her bank records and they found a receipt for some shoes at Walmart, and they went and found them, and they were size 11 with the 29 on the bottom as well. And so I think that theirs. But if we were to say, all right, there was that those boot prints didn't belong to them, that they belonged to some other kids out there, and the blanket was planted, what other possibilities could there be? If Daniel and Malaya didn't have anything to do with it, I thought that there was the possibility that maybe perhaps, if somebody like a crime of opportunity saw the kids maybe outside in the driveway, or maybe even down the street a little bit, picked them up off the side of the road.
There's only 100 people in the whole town.
There's a guy that lives pretty close. And he's a thief. He's gotten arrested as a pretty bad thief, and also with drug. He had some drug possession. He is the same guy. His kids ride the bus with Daniel too, or it's Daniel's kids. This guy, if he's a thief because he's supporting a habit, I wouldn't put it beyond somebody doing that to go through the trash.
Go through the trash, maybe, but I don't know anything about the kids part. Like, there's plenty of addicts around here, and nobody would take someone's kid.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but there's also people like Richard Allen who may have been on drugs when he did what he did with the two kids out there in Delphi.
I don't know. I just feel like there were so little people in this town. I feel like I could be wrong. I don't know.
Right. So the reason why this is interesting is because they did a geofencing on the phones and stuff, and because of the low service that is out there, this guy living so close, his phone would be indistinguishable from the other phones in the area or from Daniel's because of the low service and things of that nature. Apparently, the command center wasn't too far away from his house, and he wasn't keen on them being so close to his home. Then the blanket gets found going in the opposite direction. Now, the blanket was placed 6 feet above the ground, bright pink, almost something that is put there on purpose so that somebody could see it. I could see that if somebody thought that the command center was getting a little too close to home, if he took that blanket, put it out somewhere further out the other direction, up high enough so it could be found, that could advert direction that way. But we have to discredit the boots and the boot prints, and I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. I need to look more into this. Everything, like I said, it goes like I think one way, and then I see something else that shoots the other way, and it just gets so confusing.
If you guys, if you don't mind, I'm going to see, because people are saying if you have the 911 call and you emailed it to me, let me know. I never heard it. I've never heard it either.
Someone said they don't think it's been released. Mountain Mama.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, I feel like you would have heard that if it was out.
I want to say also thank you to Lori for buying me 5 beers. Thank you so much, Lori. And then yesterday we had 3 beers from Mariska 16.
I love that beers.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we get
That's
beers out here, which
That's funny.
they're my beers. Thank you. Thank you. If you guys get it, we'll do it next time. If you guys get the 911 call, let me know. You will never hear the 911 call in Canada. Maybe they're talking about something else. You know what? I think I know what they're talking about. They're talking about the dispatch back and forth when they found the blanket. Now, Daniel had said that the blanket, was found at 4:00. Documents indicate that it was found around 4:00. The dispatch, I think it's coming in at around 3:50 something, 3:40 something. Now, the reason why this is important is because the bus passed by at 4:00 or at 3:51, and apparently the blanket's not in the tree. And so this is why they thought that Haley had planted it, is because if she found it at 4, it wasn't there at 3:51, and she's the one that found it at 4. How does that make sense? But the dispatch audio, and I haven't heard it yet, but some people are telling me that the blanket was found closer to 3:40 before the bus passed by, which would make sense why it's not on camera. But according to Daniel, the reason it's not caught on camera is what RCMP told him is why they believe it was planted. What do you think about that?
I don't know. I think it's dangerous to start saying, like, if I thought something was planted as Ellie of any sort, I would make sure that I knew it before I just suggested it, because then it's like then you wonder why nobody's going to show up for the next search type thing. Because it's like, if you find something, are you going to get accused of planting it? I don't know. So I feel like if it was planted, they should probably not say anything until they have proof of that.
Yeah. Serious. I am checking my email. I'm checking it again. I don't got anything serious. Let me check my spam real quick. But yeah, so yeah, that's the only thing there. But I think you're right. Man, I got like collaborations. I got all this stuff.
You got all kinds of stuff.
I've never hit my spam button. I got some things to go through. Well, Dr. Vona, I don't want to waste too much more of your time. I want to say thank you so much for coming on here. You're as insightful as always. Do you have any final words?
Make sure everybody's subscribed to both of us. And yes. I will definitely be back. And Barbara, we are on that. We are on your son's case, I promise.
Yes, that'll probably be the next live that I do. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe. I have some audio that's going to blow everybody's mind on that one. So I've been waiting to get it out. It's been tough, but we'll probably be doing that soon. You guys have a great night. Like, comment, subscribe. Go check out Dr. Vona's channel. The link is actually in the title. It's at Dr._Vona. That's the easy way to find it. If not, also search for The Minds Behind True Crime with Dr. Vona. And you can find also me at the DT Show or Drunk Turkey Show. Please check it out. And with that being said, we'll see you guys next time. No, I haven't seen that yet, but I'll check it out. See you guys next time. Peace.
See you later, you guys.